Hey there! Welcome to Spectrum Pulse, where we talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today's a big one. We got the newest project from Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft. I remember feeling more conflicted for Happier Than Ever. It had the lingering feeling that it was great, which eventually crystallized over time and had me call it one of the best albums of 2021, but it was the sort of project that convinced me if we never got another album from Billie Eilish again, I wouldn't have been surprised. It was also an album that attracted the kind of intense scrutiny that felt distinctly weird. Yeah, some of it was tied to pandemic conditions. There was a lot of weird shit said and done online that many would rather forget they did. I mean, there was the critique of her feminine presentation, folks calling it her flop era because the singles were more soft-focused and sedate, and the album was more difficult and introspective. And let's not forget all the accusations of queer-baiting, which look a certain type of way now given that she has come out. I don't know, you would think the audience, who was aggressively loud and wrong on the subject, and of whom Bille was intensely aware of and wrote about on that album, they might do some personal reflection on the discourse and harassment they perpetuated, but no one wants that now, do they? In any case, despite what the internet might say and my own thoughts that she might just disappear, Billie Eilish actually stuck around. 2022 was pretty quiet for her outside of an EP that was really quite strong, and she was on tour. I've seen her live twice, she's phenomenal. But What Was I Made For came through in 2023 for the Barbie movie, got her second Oscar and another big Grammy win, which felt predictable but also a little more deserved. That song's incredible. But I really had no context of what was coming for her third album, Hit Me Hard and Soft. No singles pushed. I knew it was shorter and running only 10 songs. She was still only working with her brother Phineas on production, of which I don't have complaints. Better he produces for her than work on his own projects. And while the critical acclaim once again poured in, I've heard very little context around said acclaim, so I was going in blind here and hoping for the best. Conscious of how, at the time, I described Happier Than Ever as more transitional, so where did we wind up? Okay, albums like this can really frustrate me. Not because they are bad, or because I don't hear all the reasons this is getting a ton of critical acclaim. Even if I think comparing this to Joni Mitchell's Blue is wildly hyperbolic, it's hard for me to listen to this and not think, well, she seems like she's doing everything right, the quality's self-evident, it's not like it's that far removed from her last two albums. But the more listens I've given to Hit Me Hard and Soft, the more I'm left thinking that the ghost of a much more compelling album is just out of frame, where more chances are being taken or followed through and everyone actually sticks the landing. Or even if they don't, you wind up with a project that hits harder and feels more idiosyncratically hers. And what's even worse is that intellectually I get the logic behind a lot of the decisions that were made here. They make sense. And Billie Eilish is a strong enough performer to stick the landing, and Phineas is still one of the best producers working in mainstream pop today, but it feels like another lateral move for me. Following in the path of Happier Than Ever, it's easily her most tasteful, well-composed, even-keeled project to date, and while that's gotten rid of a lot of the obvious missteps, I'm just not sure the highest peaks are here either. But okay, let's start with Billie Eilish herself, where arguably the most positive changes have happened. Her voice and vocal technique is only getting more refined and potent with age. While she may have stuck with the soft, whispered vocals early on with an outright aversion to singing loudly, on this project there was this deeper well of sensuality and tenderness to her character that has a lot of real flavor as she dips into more vocal runs. She's really trying to sell the romance on performance, and quite frankly, she's getting there. Or on something like Lunch, just how horny she can be with the breathy moans on that outro, where even if she does choose to belt and prove that even if she doesn't like doing it, she can really pull it off. With the only vocal melody I did particularly like coming on CHIHIRO, and I think the vocal mix is all over the place for that song anyway. She even dispenses with a lot of the usual warping synthetic effects they pile on. Well, except when she's using them to make a point, which I like. Like when she slathers on the auto-tune for L'amour de ma vie in its flashing, pulsating dance break outro to highlight how faded and detached she is, or writing from the perspective of a stalker on the diner, which is probably the closest throwback to her first two albums, and that parallel is telling. I mean, the cynical part of me thinks that proving that she can really open up and sing more loudly is subtle proof that she's not just defined by the soft-spoken indie girl cooing, although there's a lot of that on this album too, you gotta please the fans. But Bille is a great performer in both complains. I know it'll translate live. I have very few complaints here. In fact, though, I gotta wonder how much the production was tailored for that live environment. Not just in the continued well-balanced emphasis on groove with a little bit more rock swagger and some of those bass lines, but as many of these songs change up or press up against other genres and how they can feel damn near house in some of the synth palette or the faster tempos, like on CHIHIRO with the sharper klaxons and sandy percussion, or how L'amour de ma vie erupts with those 80s inspired synths that are unlike anything Bille's ever used, or those more distorted build-ups across the greatest and bittersweet, the latter of which starts pretty interestingly with the broad buzzy synths before fading back into the glassy lounge vibes, and then that sandy cymbal comes into something that's a borderline dirge with those heavier synths, but it's got a really cool melodic flourish on the outro. But it is evidence of the first niggling issue I've got with this album, that many of these ideas are explored through a cool transition for an outro passage, and it's barely a third of the song. A cool showcase of an idea and something that Phineas proves he can produce well, but then they're abandoned before they can pay off a striking climax or really do anything all that special melodically that stands out. They're more textural flourishes. Meanwhile, the songs that are more in her comfort zone with the soft focus acoustics, gentle percussion, thicker wells of bass, sometimes even something closer to lounge music or sophistopop, especially as Phineas pulls together some admittedly striking strings arrangements. These are songs that are allowed to take their time, and boy they do. Set a more chic and sophisticated mood, playing up the soft focus, smooth lounge romance, with the change-ups implying a greater sense of instability that's just below the surface. And again, feels like the desired mood, and Phineas's guitar production has improved considerably, even with the distortion. The interplay with the bass across Lunch is proof of that. But for lack of better words, it's a sound that doesn't feel nearly as unique or idiosyncratic compared to her in the late 2010s. There's a lot of sad, alternative-leaning pop that's very tastefully arranged but can start to run together that's out right now. Of course, the difference is that Phineas's grooves are more accentuated, and that can have its drawbacks with the occasional drum machine sounding awkwardly brittle, and a little less intentionally so, with CHIHIRO and Blue both standing out there. And we got plenty of teasers for other spaces that they can take this sound and likely do it well, but it never feels like there's a lot of follow-through, and the atmosphere seems to have a little bit less bite and character. Now again, I know that's intentional. Billie Eilish has been softening that edge for a while now, and given a lot of the themes of the album, it wouldn't have made sense to chase for one of those darker bangers, but it winds up feeling like it's a tool that's missing from the arsenal. And while we're here, while there's still some of that darker, playful humor that would manifest in samples or quirkier flourishes, it is nearly gone across the album outside of Lunch. And without that tonal juxtaposition on the project, it starts feeling very lethargic very quickly, especially when the switch-ups feel like a tease and never really establish momentum. It's the sort of album where I get why Bille wanted it to be pitched as a whole project album statement rather than drip feeding any singles, because let's be real, a fair few of these songs would struggle to stand out on their own, especially as it often feels like Bille's vocal lead is nestled a little deeper into the mixes than she normally is. As the arrangements get a little bit more lush, it can be tougher to define that distinct melodic hook. But again, the more listens I've given, the more I am convinced that's part of the point, and that takes us to the themes and the content, which oddly feel a little bit more straightforward than you might otherwise expect. In essence, it's an album showcasing the arc of a distinctly sapphic relationship. Bille is very careful and canny to avoid much in the way of identifying details, we'll come back to that, and a breakup that wound up hitting her pretty hard by the very end. Now there is some establishing context for her state of mind. Skinny is a very slow-paced, conventional opener, but it works for showing her continued frustrations with the confines of celebrity and what that sort of acclaim has done to her self-esteem, and questions of whether it's genuine or just for an idealized version of her. And then from there you get traces of how it all plays out. Bille falling a little too hard, a little too fast, with Wildflower implying that it might be for an ex of a friend that leads to a guilt she can't quite shake. But the relationship feels one-sided, where she's doing too much. Then the breakup hits, where the partner moves on fast and she realizes that this person was indeed not the love of her life. It's actually a reason I have no issue with the diner and the stalking story popping up at that segment of the album. Maybe a bit awkwardly sequenced, it feels like it should have come a little earlier, but if she wants to draw the ironic juxtaposition between the overcommitted partner and a stalker, I get it, it's effective. And as the project ends with her stranded in hotels for more discreet rendezvous that she referenced in Happier Than Ever, the reality of touring so much, and then longing to connect, the final track, Blue, is probably the most sobering. Not just in its direct reference point to previous tracks on the album, Bittersweet does some of that too, but also in the details of their lives that would have driven them apart with time, where the partner's issues with family and Bille's perpetual insomnia means that she can't really blame anyone for it not working or even hate the ex, but she's also very much aware she can't change it either, and that feels very mature. Kind of ironic that on Skinny she sardonically says, "Am I acting my age now?" and by Blue, "No, sadly you still sound older than your years." Ask Taylor Swift off her last album how much of a curse that can be. And as it all seems to end, we get that throwaway spoken line, "But when can I hear the next one?" Which immediately implies that Billie Eilish is aware that the soft focus, deeply low-key exploration of this kind of heartbreak, it's not exactly built for the mainstream pop smash success. Even if we'll probably have it, more on that in a bit too. But by placing all of that in her art, the commodification and the turnover process starts anew, and that's a very deeper, very meta resonance I appreciate. And yet, it feels like there's something in the writing that should be hitting a lot harder here, and it's kind of tough to pin down what it precisely is. Part of it might be the lack of the more idiosyncratic humor or the odd swerves that have peppered her career. This album feels more respectable in all aspects, which is what she set out to do, but can have some downsides of diminishing her more unique personality. And let's be real, where she's gotten more meta before about her career in music, Happier Than Ever is the comparison point. It had better introspective detail. Yes, her newfound queerness adds a different and very welcome texture to her storytelling, but the writing feels very built for broadly universal themes. Bille's not just looking to tell a story that can only be linked to her, and that makes a lot of sense on a number of levels. Her desire for privacy, especially in comparison with mainstream pop acts, and her space that overshare, where I think she's tapped in enough to recognize there might be some audiences that are sick of that style. And there's truth that within mainstream pop, queer framing and normalization of these sorts of love and breakup songs is incredibly valued. But the other side of the coin is that if you're only considering the mainstream, there's a broad swath of queer indie pop that plays to a very similar palette to Billie Eilish in recent years, and that's a little ahead of the game, which leaves some of these songs feeling more tentative and guarded. And that's fine too, if it didn't feel like it came at the expense of Billie Eilish's personal stylism, of which we get plenty of teases but limited payoff. And what's frustrating is that, again, I can't argue that Bille didn't deliver exactly what she set out to do here, or that a specific audience won't find a ton of resonance. What it feels like is a choice in order to prioritize a specific resonance that she knows is not for everybody, but it's where her muse took her. And I can respect that, even if emotionally I'm just not nearly as gripped as I want to be. And I think that's where I fall in an odd space with Hit Me Hard and Soft, a project I very much like and respect, but I don't quite love it. It's Billie Eilish's formula, further refined in multiple senses of the word, as her voice and grooves only continue to get better, and she sketches a pretty strong, self-contained arc and theme, easily her most tasteful and composed album to date. It's very cohesive. I miss the humor, the pitch black swerves, and I get the feeling Bille knows that, and I'm not about to demand she retread that material when exploring this part of herself as a much higher and emotionally fraught priority. I just wish I connected as strongly with it as so many critics have. All the more annoying because I can hear what's driving the connection, it's just not fully sticking for me. Still, very good album. I'm curious to see if it also grows on me as strongly as Happier Than Ever did. Not my favorite of hers. I wish the hit was a little harder, but I appreciate the softness all the same, and you probably will too. Check it out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, and subscribe. I know diehard Billie Eilish fans, I know you wanted me to come across more positive on this. Honestly, I think I am pretty positive as a whole. I think this album is very good. It might even warrant being great with me with more time. I've given this a ton of listens, and it could very well get there. I'm just not sure it will without those stronger highs. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get involved in helping support the channel, link to my Patreon is right over there. Get albums out of my schedule, yell at me on my Discord, you know the whole deal. Don't feel obligated, tough times, I understand, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.